Hey, friend. It's great to see you again. I figured we'd talk about something that is always on my mind and something we can never seem to get away from. It's guilt, nursing guilt. Guilt for not feeling like you've done enough, not feeling like you've given it your all, even when you've been working for 10 straight hours without going to the bathroom, bladder beyond full, but just feeling like if you didn't give it that extra everything, all that was in you, that you just didn't do everything you could for your patients. I think that's something that a lot of nurses struggle with. I know I'm not the only one. I know that it isn't just a matter of time management. I understand as a new nurse, that's always a thing, just trying to stay ahead of everything. I remember being that new nurse who was always there after shift, finishing up my notes, making sure that everything was the best it could possibly be. And even on top of doing all of that, sometimes just leaving feeling like it wasn't enough. Um, didn't always have that encouragement. I will say, as a new nurse, it was very hard to have that rousing support that you felt would be good, just to kind of let you know that you were on the right track and that you were doing things the right way. I know it's something that is always said that nurses eat their young. It's just something that unfortunately hasn't gone away yet. But this is why I always try, whenever I have an opportunity, to have an encouraging word for a fellow nurse, because I know how hard it is just getting through the day to day without piling on all these other things. Am I good enough? Is what I'm doing enough? Do I understand enough? Uh, it's really great when you have other nurses and colleagues who either A, can recognize when you need that boost, you need that word of encouragement. Maybe there's just something you're not understanding and they're coming by and they're able to help you with interpreting lab values or whatever it might look like for a patient. It's just always good when you feel like you're not in it alone. I think for me, one of the hardest things was just not always feeling that I was measuring up to being the type of nurse I should have been. When all that was really required was, I mean, past the NCLEX, we had the ability to work beside really great nurses, great preceptors. It's just a matter of believing in yourself. I think when I finally got to the place where I believed in what I was doing and I finally felt like I had my sea legs under me, you couldn't tell me anything. And I was so happy to be able to share that with the patients I had the pleasure. It didn't always feel like a pleasure, but the pleasure of taking care of. You know, there was just such a great feeling about. I personally used to work overnights. I like the overnight shift. It's just different. Um, the nurses who work overnight, the staff as a whole, the medical assistants, the nurses, the clerks, even though we moved to a different beat, we always had the rhythm. You know, it was one of those one beat, one sound. We all understood what that was supposed to look like. And it was great when you would come in, look at that clipboard to see who'd be working, you'd be like, oh, we're gonna have a good night tonight. Because you already knew everyone had the mindset of we're going to take care of these patients. And it wasn't just necessarily take care of their patient. We were going to make sure that we took care of each other's patients. There's just something that comes with knowing that your colleagues are there for you when you need them. And being that support to other nurses and other support staff as well. I think that's one of the greatest joys and pleasures I have is when there are newer nurses and less experienced nurses who come on the floor, or I see them throughout the hospital, and I'm able to share with them something that a seasoned nurse share with me, or something that I came to figure out that I know would kind of save them some headache and heartache down the road. It's just really good to understand that nursing really is one of those professions where we truly are better together. I just want to encourage any nurse who feels like they're just not measuring up, that what they do just isn't enough. Know that you're not alone. Know that you are not the first nurse to feel that way. Sometimes we have really sick patients and they require a lot of us. But even being that sick, sometimes, even with our best efforts, it's just not enough. But there is something, that a feeling that you get, that at the end of your shift, you know you did the very best you could. You used and had access to every resource you had, you used it. Every person who thought about what it is you needed to do and helped you assess, you all were able to do it. It's hard losing patience. I don't think anything ever prepares you for the first time you lose a patient. And I know that's something that every nurse remembers. But I think it's also good because we have those nurses who's come behind us and we're able to help them navigate what that looks like. Um, I tell you, I love nursing. And I know there's so many other nurses who feel the exact same way I do. But once again, we seek to find balance in this world of nursing. We have to balance between um, taking care of our patients, taking care of their families and their loved ones, um, being able to help our patients when they don't understand exactly what's going on. I'm sure, because like I mentioned, we're having worked overnights. I remember when providers and doctors would come into around 6 o'clock in the morning and they're talking to the patient. They're going through everything. They're going through lab values. They're going through what that looks like for them now. They're going through, this is what the plan of care is going to be. And the patient sits there, is like, okay, all right, okay, doc, yeah, I got it. And as soon as the doctor leaves, the patient looks at me and says, what did he mean? What was he talking about? And now you have to go ahead and everything they were told, now you're downloading it, you're flipping it, and you're finding a new way to share it so that your patient understands exactly what it is that's going on. You're not going to tell me that nurses aren't superheroes. I know we are. I know we are amazing at what we do, and we are the ones that help hold it all together. It's such a great opportunity to have, to be able to be that for patients. But in as much as we're that for them, we have to see what we're going to be for ourselves. So I realize that there's a lot we can learn from each other. I know that there's a lot of things, that times that we've been inspired to say, okay, you know what? I think I can do this another day. I know there were many days, especially as a new nurse, where I was like, you know what? Maybe nursing is not for me. I don't think I'm cut out for this. And I remember there was a seasoned nurse on the unit who I happened to be in the medication room. And she came into the medication room behind me and she's like, listen, don't you let anyone drive you out of here. Don't you let anyone drive you away from nursing. Is this what you want to do? And I'm like, yes. She's like, well, then you can do it. We're here to help. Whatever it is you need, you let us know. And it felt good to realize that in that moment, I had an ally. Because nursing, in as much as everyone is in it together, you can feel very alone when it comes to providing the care and just navigating everything that needs to be done when it comes to caring for your patients plural, because depending on the type of unit you work on, there were some nights when I only had one patient. They were just that sick. But then, depending on other units, there are nurses who have upwards of 6, 7, 8. I've even seen sometimes 10 nurses, 10 patients at a time for one nurse. And I've seen two nurses work an entire floor with more than 20 patients. They get it done. Because you know what? We have to remember too, it isn't always necessarily all inpatient. You have lots of nurses who work in nursing homes and rehabilitation centers, and it looks different for everyone. But what I want us to be able to do as nurses is to show grace to one another, to allow space for people to feel the way they feel, to be able to express themselves, to actually have healthy discourse because it's possible. We can do it. I used to tell nurses I work with all the time, like, we're critical thinkers. We know how to do it. If we can think 5 steps ahead about a medication that we're going to give a patient and what that's going to look like, and if we do particular things, how that steers their care plan and what the result is going to be, then I think we can do the same when it comes to how we treat and we interact with each other. I think we're so much stronger and so much better when we're together. There is more that unites us and allows us to be the same than there is that separates us. I just want nurses to know that we can do this and that we can allow ourselves to be a safe space for fellow nurses. Why not? We've always needed that for ourselves at some point in time. There's always been a time when we needed someone just to allow us to vent, allow us to cry, allow us to just be silent, just allow us to be. So let's just keep that in consideration. Let's think about that when we think about ourselves. What would we want in situations where we just don't have necessarily the words to say or the thoughts of what to do? How would we want to be treated? How would we want to be handled? What grace would we want extended to us in instances and times like that? Let's be that for others. We always have our eyes open. We see so much. There is not much that gets by us. We've been taught and trained to see. We've been taught and trained to hear. We even hear what hasn't been said. So let's use all of those superpowers that we have to build each other up because we can do that as nurses. We are amazing. Our job is amazing. The skills are absolutely amazing. Let's use that to build each other up. Tomorrow, we're going to do it again. I'd love to be able to hear more about what you all want to talk about, what you all want to hear. We're here as a community to encourage each other, to motivate each other, knowing that there is nothing that we cannot do. Nothing. So, you guys take care. And until next time, stay safe and be well.